Hi there guys, and welcome to another video on the channel. This is the second part on the making of those two small Japanese knives. As you can see, they are now ground and ready for heat treating. So I'm now going to light the forge, and while I do that I'm going to show you the footage of how I ground those blades to where they are now. So basically the way I ground those blades is I started by drawing the shape of the outline of the blade. So I marked the correct angle of the tip, and then I used an angle grinder to shape the right shape from the sides. Then what I had to do is I had to flatten the underside. So this side is perfectly flat. I did this again with an angle grinder and with a diamond abrasive sharpening stone. And then the last thing I did is I ground the bevel. This was done like all the rest with the angle grinder and the sharpening stone, and I also used a file a little bit to really get it flat and as perfect as I could. So now let's light the forge, and then we are going to heat treat those blades. It's going to be quite difficult and quite risky to heat treat those things because they're extremely thin. The tip is just so thin, it will be so easy to burn it. So what I'm just going to do is I've got a old piece of steel here that's hot, and I'm going to use that to preheat my oil. I'm using sunflower oil for the quench, and I'm just preheating it like that. As you can see, I'm heating up this blade very slowly from the back, just to avoid overheating the tip, which would be very easy with a tip as fine as that. So the blade is almost good. It's just the very tip that's not yet hot enough. But it's very important anyway to heat up a blade slowly when you're hardening it. Because if you overheat it, you lose the carbon content of the steel. And if you heat it too fast, then the steel can't fully turn into martensite before you quench it, so it's important to heat it up extremely slowly. So I have now put the full blade into the coal, but I'm now not using the bellows anymore. I'm just using the heat from the coal, the residual heat from the charcoal, to just very gently heat up the blade. This way I can avoid overheating it. So I am now going to go in for the quench. I'm happy with the heat of the blade. And just because my pot is a little bit too small and I can't fully immerse the blade into the oil, I'm then going to finish quenching it in a bucket of water. Okay, so here we have the first blade all hardened. It's looking very good. You can see Some of the scale has popped off, so that's a sign that it's hardened well. Sounds fairly hard. I'm going to do a file test in a minute. So I'm now leaving the blade here before I do any more testing on it, because it generally only fully hardens after a little while. Sort of a few seconds after the quench it's still fairly soft, and then it gets harder with time. I can see it still stayed fairly flat, it didn't warp or anything, so that's really good. I'm going to do the second blade now. I'm only doing one at a time because it's too much risk. If I do both at the same time, it's just too much risk to overheat one.